Okay, folks, I'm back again. My name is Marty Major. I am with FLIR's TCX Training Department, and we're here today to talk about one of the new features in our United VMS 7.0 that we rolled out a few months back. And as you can see by the title on this title page, we're here today to talk about thumbnails search in Control Center. It's a visual search function now that we've added. So now instead of sort of having to guess when something occurred and doing queries and finding the timeline, and the visual search allows us to be able to choose a time period and get thumbnails throughout that time period to actually be able to see and get to something that may have happened that we don't even know when it happened very, very quickly. So I would like to point out the software on the right-hand side of your screen, our GoToWebinar software, does allow you to ask questions. So for right now, if you look over on the side in the question area, go ahead and at least type in, "Hey, I can hear you," just to make sure that we know the thing is working and you can communicate. All right, it looks like we've got, there we go. All right, excellent. Thank you very much, folks. Well, let's move forward, and I want to let you know also this is going to be very quick and to the point. We just need to show the feature itself, I think, so everybody understands how it works and can get the most out of this new feature. So with that said, going forward, this will be probably the world's shortest slide presentation. As you can see, the first slide after this, the title slide, we're going to go right to the demo because really it needs to be seen in order to sort of understand that. And then what we'll do is we'll pause sort of throughout our time together just to see if you guys do have any questions or not. Now, normally I've got a backup guy, a number two, that will be fielding questions and typing answers in as I ramble on. But this is a smaller bunch, I think, at this time for this webinar, so I'm actually handling it myself. I don't have a number two tonight. So we'll take a pause for, every couple of minutes just to make sure everybody's on board and that I can answer any of the questions you guys might have. So again, with the live demo showing right there, let's go ahead and come back out of our slide presentation and go right to Control Center. Now, as I mentioned, it is 11 p.m. on the East Coast here in the United States, and as you can see, this is our Gen 2 aerial camera that just came out a little while back. Really, really nice low light picture. And as you can see, I have there's light close enough, so our camera's still rendering in color. But if you see, we're in Control Center. It looks similar to, well, it's actually in Admin Center anyway. It didn't change at all when we went to 7.0, hardly at all. The visual parts did change a little bit in Control Center, and one of the functions for querying that we've added is the thumbnails search. So if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, in this area right down here by our PTZ overlay, we do have our queries section. And if I click on the queries section, as always, when I'm in my training classes, I always say when you're doing a query, you want to start at the top and then work your way all the way down to get to the go button before you get there. So if we start at the top here in our search for field, you can see before 7.0, we had everything in this list except for the second from the top one right here, and that is the new thumbnails query or thumbnails search that we have in Control Center. So you can see I choose thumbnails, and then in the next section here, notice I can only choose one camera at a time. I'm not able to choose multiple cameras and get them to sync in my playback like we can do in some of the other regular queries. But thumbnails search is strictly for one camera at a time. However, what you can do is when you perform the search, by the time we hit the bottom, it'll actually create a new tab up here for that thumbnails search. So basically, you could go to the second camera, perform a second query, and it would give you the second tab, and then you could just tab back and forth between the cameras. And so you could do a number of cameras that way. You just can't perform the individual queries with more than one camera. So we're going to start here with our aerial camera just by highlighting this and come down here to the date and time section. This is the same as all of our other queries. We can either query for the last day, last 48 hours, last week, anytime, which is from the beginning of the database until right now. And then, of course, if we want to pick and choose our time, we can go to manual selection. So I'm just going to leave it at the last 24 hours, and you can see it's the time is located right here from right now to a day ago. But the new thing for thumbnail search, and the important thing in thumbnail search, is the interval section that you choose right down here. Now we're going to be looking on this camera over the past 24 hours. And so what I'm telling the system to do right here is give me a thumbnail for every hour. So I would expect 23 or 24 thumbnails to be displayed. Now it can display 12 at any given time, so that's even nice even round number It'll just give me a second page of results if I choose 1 hour. So that's what I want to do, because maybe over this last 24 hours, I don't even know when my Rolex was stolen, from the hood of this truck here that you can see. Now, obviously, I shouldn't put a Rolex on the hood of a truck in a parking lot, but nonetheless, imagine that that is the case for this scenario. So I don't know when it disappeared, and I want to visually be able to quickly locate in my timeline, without guessing too much, when or what time frame it occurred in. So if I look over the last 24 hours and I look at every 1 hour and I just hit go, we can see it pauses for a second, and this is the new interface. This is something that you have not seen before in versions of Latitude prior to 7.0. So you can see the thumbnail search and the timestamps here. Here's 11:08 p.m. yesterday, 12:08 p.m. this morning, 1:08. So you can see about every hour. Sometimes it's not exact if I don't have the camera recording for a period of time. It's going to give you pretty close to, though, the 1 hour intervals that you chose right down at the bottom. So what you're trying to do visually is take a look. Okay, I don't really see anything going on here. I should have more thumbnails. There's a few more. Maybe this was the one where I actually see the difference occurring. So already, just in one quick little search, I didn't know when this event occurred within the 24-hour period. And now just by simply bringing up my thumbnails, I can see that it occurred between 7:13 p.m. Today and 8:13 p.m. So now what you want to do is come back down here and do a little dive into, you want to start big, right? If you don't know when it occurred, give yourself some big parameters, and then you want to drill down using the thumbnail search until you find the area of interest on your timeline, and then you can just export that evidence. So for instance, to drill down, what we want to do here is we know it occurred between these two thumbnails right here. Now, maybe it was in this area even right here. So what I can do is if I come over here, if I click on this, it's going to put that image or that timestamp into the playback right here. And I could zoom in using my digital zoom. And once I do that in my thumbnail, it also does it in the accompanying thumbnails that are displayed right here too. So it lets you focus right in on the area you're looking for. So anyway, let's go back to our area of time. Once you locate the time parameters that something occurred in, you simply take this time now and you come down here, and instead of looking over the last 24 hours, we don't need to do that anymore. We've already located the hour period of time it occurred. So I'm going to go to manual selection, and I'm actually going to put in the correct time and date, and I believe the top one here is 7:13 p.m. So I simply come down here and I put in the beginning parameters, or now the new beginning parameters. And now the end parameters, this is the correct date, I want to choose from here because I know it occurred between these two times. So I simply change this one to 8:13, like so. Now, I wouldn't want to leave the interval time, right? We're drilling down into that time frame of when the incident occurred. So I know it occurred within this hour, which I've reflected right here in my new, from, and to times. And then what I want to do is use that interval thing to drill in deeper. So my entire period here is 1 hour. So if I want to see a bunch of thumbnails, 15, maybe very 5 minutes would be good, because that should give me 12 thumbnails or thereabouts in that region. So if I now hit go, it comes up now, and now again, this was the beginning time, 7:13. We told it this was the end time. So now we saw this thumbnail, we saw that thumbnail, but by drilling down using our interval field down here, we now can see every 5 minutes, and okay, we can see maybe something occurred between these two images here. So now already we've drilled down. We didn't know before we sat down and started our first query when something occurred over that period of time, and within minutes we've now already nailed it down to about a 5 minute or 3 to 4 minute time period, which we can then go right to our timeline. By clicking it, it brings it up here. We can use our fast forward functions, locate what it is we're looking for, and then simply, export. Why am I not exporting here? Well, what we can do is hit our beginning in and our end time. Once we've located those, what is going on with my end time here? Either way, let's move it forward. This is not an exporting webinar, good thing, because I can't seem to be able to pull it off. I'm not sure what's going on here, but you can see the thumbnails visual search, and this is really all it is. Again, the only thing to really talk about is when you do a query, you start at the top, choose thumbnails, choose the one camera you're looking for, and then use that drill down function that we talked about down here with our interval choice. So I think this is a good time now, and again, I told you it was going to be short and sweet and to the point. Just wanted to make sure that everybody has an understanding of how to use the tool. I'll pause now just for a second, and I'll take a look at the queue and see if we have any questions or anything we need to clarify. Hold on. Well, it looks like there's only one question. The question I've got here from Jim says, once you choose your initial time period and you see your first thumbnail search, like for the hour, and then you want to start to drill down a little further. He mentions the fact that if I click on this, which now puts it into here, and then I can manipulate this a little bit. If I want to start drilling down further, it would be nice, he says, and I would agree with this because it makes it faster, if when I click this, not only did it put it over here, but it changed my from time down here. Well, first of all, I was looking at a day, so it would have to go to manual selection and then put that from time simply by clicking on here. That would increase the amount of time or decrease the amount of time it would take me to set my secondary parameters and then start to drill down a little further with my interval. I think that's a good idea. I'll send an email to my guys, my 7.0 guys, and let them know that we had a participant on a webinar with a good idea. I think that would speed up the function. And that's the whole thing about this thumbnail search. It's a visual thing. It's really good for two instances, in my opinion, and this is how I train in our certification classes. If you don't know over what period of time, say you go home one day from work and unfortunately you get hit by a bus and then you're in the hospital and you have to go to rehab. You come back to work 30 days later and something is missing that used to be there and it is on a camera. The thumbnail search, you can instantly find what you're looking for, maybe even in combination with one of our other smart searches over here, which is also kind of for that function. So over long periods of time, if you don't know when something occurred, or a missing object, or if something in the scene has changed and you're not sure exactly when it did change, thumbnail search is your answer. And with that said, we are only about 13 minutes into the webinar. The one earlier this morning was only about 15 minutes. Had a couple of questions with that one as well. But if we don't have any other questions, I'll pause here for another minute or two and check my questions section. I don't see anybody with a question, nor with anybody with their hand up. So I hope everybody joins us for the next webinar. We do have a big webinar. I got over 100 people already registered for our adaptive streaming webinar, which is going to be on May 17th. You can check the website, and with that transition, what I'll do is I'll bring up our FLIR website. From the FLIR homepage, you want to come over to Products and then down to Security. And then once you get to the Security page, simply come over under Support and Training. And if you click on the training link, we have our in-person training certification classes that we teach out on the road. We have some online training videos similar to sort of what we're covering here today in person. And we do have some other upcoming webinars. And if I click on that, and we're about to update this today. I think I'm late getting my material in to the people that need it up here. But you can see right here, we do have an adaptive streaming webinar coming up in just under 2 weeks. A really, really good feature, I think, that saves people a lot of either live streaming bandwidth or system resources. Adaptive streaming allows the system to automatically and dynamically stream the correct size stream for the pane that you have open. And with that said, just a little teaser that I gave you there. Go ahead and please register for that webinar, and we'll see you on May 17th. Now, with that said, again, I'm checking the queue. It's still clear. I hope this at least has given you an understanding of how thumbnail search can be a very powerful visual alternative to our normal and existing querying functions. So again, thanks for attending this quick webinar. If you do have any questions, my name is Marty Major. My email address is marty, M-A-R-T-Y, .major, M-A-J-O-R, @FLIR.com. Any questions at all, go ahead and send it to me and we'll get you squared away. So thanks for attending, and I hope to see you in just a couple weeks. Thanks.